eye sockets. I mean, there's a socket here.
But it's not connected to anything?
No. I mean, there should be an eyeball in there, and they filled in behind the socket. Normally that would be hollow. Yeah. And then Ray's not quite that good looking, but and his head was bigger before they boiled it. I think that the Iranians like boiled brain. So, but anyway, okay. So where are you guys? Okay.
I'm happy to present this in front of everybody else. Apollo will choose not to give away as much information as I would discuss or disclose with these guys. One of which just recently got shorted. They predicted this beforehand. They also see whether they reasonably predict where the industry is going to go in the next few months, years, etc. I think New Zealand's a really good opportunity in 2 years, not now. I think New Zealand's a good place to build a platform. It's easy to scale. Everyone's risk averse. It's probably the easiest way. Nobody has any forgiveness for somebody that takes a risk and makes a mistake.
It's not funny, but unfortunately, most of the world's like that.
Mm-hmm. We spoke about well, I think that's the word. BMW, batch, and then something else. That's what they want.
Yeah, and that's what they tell me.
The clean, perfect life. Anyway, I don't ever. Well, I choose. Well, I don't know. Maybe you say I think I'm more aggressive than I am.
I mean, for there you are, but I mean, in New York City, you'd just be one of the 8 million people.
I'm still a pleb.
Yeah. But I mean, and just to make that clear, I mean, he's in an area that's super risk averse. New Zealand. There are other areas. That's not the only area in the world. And then when they do take a risk, they certainly don't want it associated in any way, shape, manner, or form on their resume or CV that it was a mistake and it fucked up. Okay. Well, whereas in New York City, not probably, even though he is fairly aggressive, the New York City mentality, I mean, he'd be in the middle of the pack because that's how they're brought up. In London, you'd be aggressive, not at the top, but you'd be, because there's a lot of Americans there, but I mean, you'd be in the top quarter in London. But you go, wherever you go, you're going to find people that are willing to sit on their eggs, and they stopped managing to win and they started managing not to lose. And that's the flip. I mean, and no matter how much I've been beating my chest about it for over 20 years, it hasn't changed. And in fact, except for the millennials, the people seem to be more risk averse. And that's just the way it is. So, but where you are, they are risk averse. Okay, go ahead.
Banks are obviously the most risk averse one, at least from my experience. Perhaps I'm incorrect, but in terms of wherever you're going to lend the money from, they want to know that 100% the deal's not going to fucking fail on you. You need to back by private equity, so it's easier money, choice of last resort. But it makes you a billionaire.
You know, in his deal, he tells me there's only 4 banks in New Zealand that. Like, how do you play on that? It's almost like, you know, I go down 4 blocks from where I live, and there's more banks than what he's dealing with.
Well, I mean, Australian banks also lend in New Zealand. I mean, there's more than 4 banks in Australia.
They're subsidiaries of the Australian banks, though.
Okay, but I mean, there are American banks in Australia, and there are other foreign banks in Australia. I mean, in London, there's 405 banks, okay, from all over the world. And there's probably 10 times that many in the United States. But I mean, there are other banks. But what you need to do is the banks that are willing to do this kind of transaction, the banks that like healthcare, the banks that have a history in healthcare. And that eliminates a lot of the banks, especially when if they're risk averse. But I mean, he will find some, but as he just said 2 minutes ago, the lender or investor of last resort is probably the easiest to get it done with, which is private equity, because you don't have to take them through the risk analysis. They've got their own risk analysis, and if they're there, it's because they like being there. And if they're talking to you about this kind of deal, it's because they like that kind of deal. And but he knows, not just from what I've said earlier today to the group, that they're going to take a lion's share of the equity, and then you'll negotiate a clawback to try to get the best deal you can. And even like the Four Seasons deal and some other deals that we've done, you can still make a lot of money in terms of return to you as a group from private equity. But you can make more money in terms of return to you if you use them either at the very end or you use them as little as possible. But I mean, we have some of the kids out there are going straight to private equity because for whatever reason, either the spread's too big, the gap is a bridge too far to be able to join up with mezzanine or bridge financing, and coupled with owner taking back paper. And some of those, they're just a bridge too far. You can't do it. So you bring in private equity. So, but you should look at all the alternatives first. I mean, because it still is the investor of last resort. But as he just alluded to, there's a higher probability that you're going to have more success pitching it to a private equity firm, and you're going to have to make less presentations. I'm not suggesting this, but you'll make less presentations because you're probably going to find somebody sooner in the private equity arena than you will a commercial bank. And especially when the commercial bank arena universe is so small.
You didn't ask me the question, but to elaborate on it, if you had to Google how many banks in New Zealand, there's 22. ICBC, Chinese banks, etc. Talking about the four major banks are four banks. That's it. They're the ones that deal in the space. They're the ones who fund. They're the ones that like this, are interested, etc. I've got introductions and I have met with the CEO of every single bank that's represented in New Zealand, and I haven't stayed in New Zealand in terms of looking. The question you asked, I gave you the answer. We're only talking to four now, because those are the ones I romanced and had the best relationship with, so we stuck with them, kind of thing.
Okay, good. Now what?
I think I'm going to pivot industry.
Okay.
The question we asked, sorry, about a presentation that was done earlier today was a similar industry to mine. And yeah, it could be funded, but it was a very slow route. I want to make a lot of money, I want to be rich, and I want to find the easiest way to achieve that. I don't ever mind sacrificing as much of my own time, life, personal fucking respectability to achieve it. I think my industry is a little bit too difficult for me to achieve the wealth I want to create in a quick time.
So what are you going to pivot to? That's why I want to pivot.
I don't know yet. It may be two different things. Oil refineries. It wouldn't be in the country I am. I might choose to move again. Or cybersecurity.
Well, I mean, energy's hot but I don't expect this to happen. But if oil goes back to $100 a barrel, oil won't be hot. Okay? But right now, they're hemorrhaging, bleeding to death. There are bodies in the streets. It's like the Walking Dead program on TV. Well, that's what the oil industry looks like now. The ones that aren't dead yet are staggering around, they wish they were dead. And cybersecurity is hot, and it's going to stay hot. And I hope we don't go, like I said yesterday, I hope we don't go to war or anything like that. But every time WikiLeaks hits the internet with another 5,000 emails of former Secretary of the State, who should have a secure system, if anybody's got one. And when they're laying out all these emails from all these high-profile people from the FBI, the State Department, I mean, that's golden for cybersecurity, golden. And I'd like to know what we're stealing vis-a-vis cybersecurity from everybody else. We have, we're not flapping our lips. Yeah, but I'm sure somewhere, someplace. Now the Chinese, funny enough, not funny, but strange enough, were the ones that the U.S. government for 10 years was always worried about the Chinese taking our shit. Now, no, I haven't heard the Chinese mentioned since this WikiLeaks thing. All of a sudden, I'm not saying they're our buddies, but nobody's talking about it. It's like they forgot. So either one of those areas, Jade, are hot.
The oil refinery needs to be done quickly. And I guess that's private equity. Their investment horizon is 3 years. So you can call back because they probably want you to.
Yeah. And depending on they're not going to sell a big refining unit. And refineries normally go with associated bits and parts that Alex and Woot were trying to explain about the upstream, middle stream, downstream. And I don't know the question, I haven't checked in a long time. What capacity are the worldwide refiners operating at? Are they at 60% capacity, 40%, or 90% capacity? Because that is going to drive the sales process. If they're they're operating, in other words, if a 100,000 barrel a day refinery is only producing 50,000 barrels a day, they got motivation to do something. If a 100,000 barrel a day refinery is operating at 90,000 barrels a day, it's because they're operating profitably, and that means that they've depreciated the assets so much that the cash that it's producing is all coming down to the bottom line. So I don't know, but I would imagine that the refineries have pulled back on their capacity since oil dropped, the $75 a barrel that it's dropped. $50, $20, $70 a barrel that it's dropped. But I don't know that for a fact. Because the refineries are producing or using the product from exploration to refine. And refineries are often associated with big fields. They're close, and that's why they're built there. Back in the day, one of the biggest refineries in the world is in Torrance, California. Torrance, California is not associated with oil production. But back in the day, offshore production, which has been cut back dramatically, offshore Long Beach and from Santa Barbara to San Diego, and onshore production has been cut back because of environmental stuff. So that refinery now in Torrance, I believe, is getting a good portion of its product from Bakersfield. They're trucking it in from various places to refine. But refinery is shit money. And now when I was doing it, there was maybe 5 products that a sophisticated refinery could produce. Now there's 25 products. Because there's derivatives. Now, instead of regular oil that you put in your engine, now there's super oil and super 6 and super that and 90%. I mean, there's all kind of different shit, which means that the product that comes out of the refineries has to be different. And so they've added a bell and whistle onto the cat cracker. That's one of the things that breaks down the distillate. And so but it's a much more sophisticated business, and you're going to have smart people. And now, I'm not saying the refinery guys that I had 30 years ago couldn't do it, but they're all retired or dead now. But I'm sure that the petroleum engineers that have come out of the good schools, are much more sophisticated now. Mm-hmm. So, but I mean, I can't disagree with either one of those areas.
You said there were 3 that were hot right now, other than healthcare and telecommunications.
No, I said cybersecurity and health foods.
Health foods.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not what it's. Designation's not health food. What's it called?
Organic.
Organic, natural. Sure. Yeah, that's hot. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but big multiples because Kraft et al. Are willing to pay up big to get them rather than have to go through all the bullshit. And so that's why they fucked up the market. But they don't want to sell to the big Kraft foods. They want to sell to the little guys.
But that's when you consolidate. Then Kraft is interested.
Yeah.
But initially
But then you sell to Kraft. Kraft is your exit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So you've got that in line.
Yeah.
Then they don't want to have to put up the grunt work to fucking pick up these small little deals one at a time, and you're doing that and offering them a solution.
And they'll pay you a premium.